Let me, okay. Well, let me first say thanks to the folks who took time this evening to join this Zoom call. I think it's productive and hopefully will be helpful as we get to Friday's meeting. As you know, Ryan is with us, and certainly we'll be turning to him for some help on some of these questions that we may have as we go through this discussion. I am just the temporary chair. I think it's probably my responsibility to conduct the meeting this evening, but the first item of business that we'll take on Friday will be the choosing of a permanent chair for the committee for the duration of the meeting over the weekend. There's a couple folks, several folks on the committee that I know, not well, but over the years have met. And then there's a whole lot of names that are familiar, and look forward to putting faces and names together over the weekend. So I look forward to meeting the folks who are on the committee and the folks who are, of course, attending the convention. That's a lot of folks. This evening's meeting is going to be informal. I think that the best way to proceed is hopefully everybody got a copy of the draft rules yesterday. And if you don't mind, we'll just go through them one at a time. If anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, disagreements, whatever with the items as we go through them, I think this evening would be a good time to bring up what your concerns might be, and we could discuss them. And then if those concerns continue till Friday, on Friday, we'll certainly hold the floor open for any changes or amendments that we might need to make to the rules before we present it to the convention as a whole. So at any rate, hopefully, as I said earlier, this discussion this evening will help facilitate a smoother, quicker, easier meeting for all of us on Friday. And I guess the thing would just go ahead and get started. The first item on the rules is, and Ryan, I think I'm probably correct. I think the vast majority of the narrative here in these rules is a carryover from past years and past practices, perhaps some edits and changes for this year, but we're largely looking at rules that this committee has followed in years past. Would that statement be fair?
Yes, that's accurate. A lot of this is building off of traditional and historical rules that we've used. Some of it is based on rules that were required by the delegate selection plan as well. But yes, for the most part, much of this is what we have used in the past. Of course, we've had to make adjustments because of our congressional delegation changing, and the fact that we are electing our delegates both in a congressional caucus and also at large.
Okay. All right. Well, the first item, state convention shall be open to all credentialed county delegates and alternates, the public and the press. Seating for delegates will be separated by county. Anybody have any comments, concerns here? Second item,
folks, if you do, if you're able to, please try to use the raise hand option on the bottom, because that alerts to Chair Winder and myself so that we can see that you have a comment. But if you aren't able to do that, then of course, whenever Chair Winder asks, you can feel free to unmute and speak.
Yeah. Ryan, by the way, I'm not sure that I will know if they raise their hand. So if it seems that I'm unaware of that, please jump in there and call my attention to it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The second item, West Virginia Democrat Party state chair will open the convention and will hold an election for the convention chair on Friday, June 14th, 2024. Are we okay with that? Okay, the third item, the state convention will adopt an agenda. Ron, when will that draft agenda be out? Is that something we get on Friday?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nominations for presidential electors may be made from the floor of the convention. No seconds are necessary for nominations. Again, I assume this is how it's been done in years past.
It has, and just for clarification to those that may not be familiar with the convention process, the presidential electors, West Virginia has 4. Those we will elect 1 from each congressional district during the caucuses on Friday, and then we will elect 2 from the floor during the full convention on Saturday. Should Joe Biden win West Virginia, those 4 presidential electors will cast their vote with the Electoral College.
Well, let's hope that's just exactly what we do. All right. Item 6 probably is going to need some discussion. Anyway, members of the Rules Committee will be tellers for counting ballots. As written right now, it says, however, for the district level race, convention or congressional district 1.
Chair Winder,
Yes.
you missed number 5.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back. Voting on national delegates will be by paper ballot, requiring a written name and signature. Voting on presidential electors will be by standing or hand up vote. Any comments? Okay. Well, item number 6. Again, I think we're going to have some discussion here. Members of the Rules Committee will be tellers for counting ballots. However, for the district level race, Congressional District 1 members will count for Congressional District 2, and Congressional District 2 members will count for Congressional District 1. For the at-large and PLEO races, a member may not count ballots if they are a candidate. Candidates or their representatives may be present during the counting of ballots. So, Ryan, do you want to get into the discussion about a possible change there in the manner in which we count ballots that evening?
Yes, and we've reflected this change on the draft that's on front of their screens right now. So rather than have the different CD member from the Rules Committee count the others, to keep the caucuses going smoothly and quickly, and because the counts will be done in the open, we're suggesting that that the Rules Committee members do the counts in their congressional districts, and then afterwards they will be able to be up for review by the other Rules Committee members should there be any questions. But again, everything will be done by paper ballot with a paper trail for the national convention delegates.
We probably, I guess, are half Congressional District 1, Congressional District 2 members of the committee. What are there, 26 members of the committee?
Approximately, yes.
So 13 and 13 will be involved in the counting.
Actually, I'll have to break down the actual numbers because we will likely have a bit fewer from CD2 because we have a slightly smaller delegation from CD2.
Okay. So I assume that you or Mike Pushkin, one will be with each of the 2 congressional districts, and you'll help organize the how we set up the counting of the ballots and the process. And I guess this is going on while candidates are making their pitches to the rest of the delegates from that congressional district. So I guess they will be far enough away in the room to where there won't be any interference, anybody having to talk over anyone else.
Correct. And Mr. Chair, we had a chat come through that Cleo Matthews would like to ask a question.
Okay. Good afternoon, Cleo. Ryan, I think she is muted right now.
Cleo, if you're able to unmute, or if you'd like to pose it in the chat, and I will relay it. Okay, we can wait on that. And I also saw Amy Lindsay had her hand up.
I did, but I think my question was answered. When Rule 6 was initially read, it sounded like I completely agree that if you are on the ballot, you should not be counting ballots, period. And the first time it was read, it sounded like it was for sort of like the at-large and things like that. So, but in reading it on the screen, that
That is correct, and that is an
okay.
adjustment that we suggested, and that was due to when we were following the previous convention rules where they did have the other delegations count, then it didn't matter because if you were running for district delegate in CD1, you weren't counting your own ballots because you were counting CD2. One of the other big reasons that we suggested this change is because in previous years, the delegate selection plan has been different for how the delegates were elected. In fact, we've had previous delegate selection plans in which all delegates were elected simply from their congressional districts, keeping in mind we had 3 congressional districts at the time. And so uh, so at that time, there were no at-large delegates elected. And in fact, they also did not count the votes, or they did not tally the votes until after the caucuses. And then they announced them the next morning. And so because we have a delegate selection plan that specifies that we will be electing our alternate delegates that evening as well. So we'll have a male from CD2 and a female from CD1. We felt it important that we're counting these ballots while we're, as soon as we take the vote, so that we can update our caucus delegations so that they can be fully informed of who they can or potentially cannot vote for when it comes to that alternate delegate election.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I apologize. I'm reading the copy that was sent out yesterday evening, and I maybe I should be reading it from the screen. Are there any other changes, Ryan, that I should be aware of as we're going through?
No, that's the only one, just the one we discussed earlier today.
Okay, the type's much bigger on the page I've got in front of me. So, all right. Well, anybody else have any more comments?
Yeah, I see. Warren Hillsbus has his hand up.
Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. I just want to make sure, clarify, make sure I understand correctly. So the initial count will be done by members of the same district that's voting, and then the other district members will review those results?
Yes, that's the idea.
Okay.
So the counts will happen in the room. We have both the South Hall and the West Hall where our caucuses will be. And so in those rooms, we will establish essentially a vote counting area for the Rules Committee members to sit. So it will be, again, in public. Of course, any candidate or anybody can have oversight of that. But then we can then have a review, the opposing congressional district Rules Committee members can just verify if they need to. They can go through every vote if they want to, but everything will be documented for that review.
Sure. Okay. I mean, more of a suggestion than anything. Maybe make that a little clearer that who's doing the actual counting. I think that still kind of needs to be there just for clarity, so there's no questions or contentions later. But it sounds fine to me.
Suggestion. Thank you, Will. Thank you. I think that's a great suggestion, Warren.
You're welcome. But that's all I have.
Okay, more thanks. All right. Anything else on item number 6? Okay. Item number 7, to make a motion or address the convention, a delegate must stand at a microphone and be recognized by the chair, at which time the delegate states their name and county. Item number 8, all individuals that are recognized to speak are limited to 2 minutes, and debate on a single issue is limited to 10 minutes, unless a motion to extend the debate by 5 minutes is sustained by a majority of those present and voting. is this an adequate amount of time to address any concerns that's, now this is in the General Convention meeting, General Assembly meeting, but and I guess the chair will be liberal in allowing that person to finish their thoughts on the item they're bringing up.
Mr. Chair, we have two hands up, Jacob Hively and Amy Lindsay.
Okay, Jacob, what you got?
Yes, and Jacob Hively from Kanawha County. I just have a little bit of a concern over, I agree we should limit people to 2 minutes. I'm a little uncomfortable with limiting the debate to 10 minutes, just because, we haven't met as a convention really since 2016 in person, and we're gonna have almost 700 people there. I'm just a little uncomfortable with that time limit. I just wanted to voice that concern.
Jason, Jacob, you got any thoughts on how long would be an adequate amount of time?
I do not. I'm just not comfortable putting a time limit on people only because I don't like that restraint, but I think the chairman could exercise his power to call on people or limit the debate that was reasonable. I would just worry about someone weaponizing these rules to limit debate. That's my only concern.
But you'd be okay if the chairman felt like the discussion had gone on long enough without a whole lot of progress or a whole lot of changing of minds?
Yeah, if we're just spinning our wheels, I would see no reason to continue a debate. I'm just a little uncomfortable with that hard 10-minute time limit, and that the motion to extend can only be 5 minutes because, with all the issues that come up, you never know how many people may want to speak or the limitations on the technology.
Okay. Jacob, if you don't mind, maybe between now and Friday, you might think of an amended statement to expand the 10 minutes to something more liberal, more open, more at the discretion of the chair.
Okay.
So maybe give that some thought and maybe bring that forward on Friday.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all.
Okay. All right. Amy, what you got?
Yeah, and this may be redundant, but I wonder if it would not be a good idea just to restate at the beginning that we're following Robert's Rules of Order, just to really lay out what the parameters are. We're not a state with intense shenanigans, but I know it has happened. And I just wonder if restating just up front, this is how the convention, is going to be run. This is who's in charge of it, all of that things, and maybe that's somewhere else. But, if we're getting into sort of the rules of discussion, I do think that reiterating what the overall rule structure is not a bad idea. Maybe redundant though.
Ryan, aren't we required by the DNC that we follow Robert's Rules of Order as we conduct state business?
Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute. Excuse me. So typically when we're dealing with any of the rules, either of the party, of organizations, or of this convention, we start first with the rules that are adopted by the convention, which are these that we're considering right now. And then anything not discussed specifically adopted in these rules, we would refer to Robert's Rules.
I've got a copy of Robert's Rules. I certainly, between now and Friday, will look to see what, I think the 2 minutes is in there. I'm not sure what the total elapsed time for discussion of the whole topic is. I'll take a look at it and see what I can find. But yes, the meeting will be conducted at the General Assembly meeting will be conducted under Robert's Rules of Order. Again, if not, if an item doesn't fall under the rules that we're adopting on Friday as a Rules Committee, correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay.
And we have Warren and Jessica
Okay.
in line with their hand.
Amy, you okay with Ryan's comment on that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I figured it was covered somewhere, and I just, yeah, That makes sense.
Okay, good, good. Jessica, what's up?
Hello, I'm Jessica Lacey. I'm from Putnam County. I actually may not be able to attend in person this weekend. I had emailed Ryan. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to catch that or not to see if we have any option for virtual attendance. But in regards to Jacob's comment about limiting discussion on any single issue to 10 minutes, I kind of agree and disagree. I think that placing a basic limit kind of gives people like, hey, I have a time limit, so I need to be concise and get to the point. But also at the same time, if no one has met and there are a lot of new names and a lot of people getting involved and have opinions to share and information to bring to the table, is there any way maybe keep the 10-minute time, but a motion to extend doesn't necessarily have only a five-minute time limit, or it's at the discretion of the chair when to end the discussion if it has been extended? I mean, I think there might be some middle ground to be found there, because I do think it is kind of a strict time limit, but also at the same time, like, a time limit is needed.
Mr. Chair, if I can just address both of those comments. So yes, Jessica, I got your email late this evening or this afternoon. There is not a virtual option for this convention. So they would just be incredibly difficult to run a hybrid with 700 people, and potentially, we would have a lot of people. It would have changed the way that this convention was planned from the beginning had we done that. To your point about this rule number 8, it is my understanding that the motion to extend the debate by 5 minutes is not a single motion. It can be, you could essentially have that motion as many times as it is sustained. That is my understanding from the intention of this rule.
Jessica, if you have some alternative language, as Jacob is going to do, maybe you might submit that in writing to Ryan or I, and on Friday we can bring up what you would have said had you been present.
Thank you. Yes, I just moved to Pennsylvania this weekend to attend law school in the fall and was supposed to come back Thursday evening, but I now have a nail in my tire. And as par for the course, when you move and have big life things, everything has become a mess in the course of like 24 hours. So I am trying to make it back this weekend. I just cannot guarantee that I will be able to attend in person.
Well, do your best, and if you can't be there, we understand. So
thank you.
Warren, yes, indeed. Warren, what are your thoughts?
Nice. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, on this one, I don't know how many other folks on the committee attended the 2016 convention, but the time management really was a very serious challenge with that one. It was a fairly, I will say, active and dynamic debate about a number of platform issues and resolutions, and it ended up requiring the delegates to stay through lunch to try to stay on schedule. So, and I would be willing to try to draft some language to address this, but we might all benefit from some direct mention to the overall allotment of time. Perhaps granting the convention chair, the authority to finding a particular debate finishing early to try to reserve that time for potentially longer discussions, that sort of thing. But I do at the same time want to speak to the general notion that these limits might seem too strict. I think the fact that they are clear, simple, and easy to understand actually helps prevent shenanigans. And after that, it is mostly up to the chair and the individual delegates to just simply try to stay focused on point and avoid repetition. That's the point of the voting, is to see where the whole body stands. The speaking to the various questions before the convention is to help illuminate the potential positions on a given question. At least that's my view of it. So the point of discussion is not to try to get every single person a chance to speak to everyone. Unfortunately, that's not realistically possible. There might also be something we could add to make it clear that reasonable side discussions between delegates who are not addressing the whole can be allowed to facilitate conversation and debate about issues at the same time, so people can still feel like they are engaging and participating, even if they don't choose to address the entire convention via the microphone. So we might be able to do something like that to preserve the simplicity and clarity of the major rules about addressing the entire convention, while still making it clear that people are very much encouraged to engage with each other and discuss these things before they vote. There's just more than one way to do that.
Well, Warren, again, I would ask that maybe between now and Friday, you give some thought to how you might word what it is your objective would be there. And let's consider that. And we're going to have several folks weigh in on that on Friday, it looks like, and maybe we can come up with some language that's a little broader, but yet we all understand that we overall have a time limit to the convention. So, Jessica, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to chime in that I think Warren has a really great point there, and that I can take a look at emailing some language ideas, but I think that, as he said, having the time limit is a necessary kind of point of order thing to lay out some structure, but perhaps giving the chair some discretion to, like, hey, we do want to have some further discussion on this. Let's move it to the end of the line and we can return if there's time, or, just kind of giving that flexibility there and allowing the chair to have a little bit of discussion or discretion would provide for the ability to extend these discussions and give people the chance to speak on it. But also, if the chair sees that things are getting a little bit long and out of hand, that hey, we need to table this for the moment, move on to the next point of order, and we can come back to it.
Okay, well, if you mentioned that you might forward some language, so please do. Laura, what have you got?
Just a quick question. Could you give me an idea, like, what period of time the body will be considering the resolutions, and then how many resolutions will be considered during that period of time? I think that would give us a sense of whether that's an adequate amount of time.
Brian, do you have some information as to how many resolutions are going to have to be considered that evening?
So for one, we do not yet know how many resolutions it will be. Resolutions will be taken up on Saturday. So resolutions will be on Saturday, as well as the platform. So the platform committee has been meeting for several weeks now, and you all should have received an email with a draft of proposed platform this evening. But it will be essentially Saturday morning will be resolutions and the platform, as well as we'll be electing our PLEO delegates to the National Convention and our at-large delegates.
So Mike will have some time to figure out how much time overall he has, and how he probably might need to divide that time by how many resolutions are going to be presented.
Just for clarification, are you referring to Chair Pushkin?
Yes, Chair. Yes. Yes, I am.
Just to be clear, Chair Pushkin will not be the chair of the convention.
So we choose a chair, a convention chair.
We will elect a chair. Yeah, we will elect the chair of the convention. I believe it's even right here, number 2. There will be a convention chair election on
I'm
Friday.
sorry. Yes. Okay. Sure.
No problem. I just wanted to clarify that it's not actually the convention will not be run by Chair Pushkin. We're just trying to develop the agenda so that it's as smooth as possible.
Okay, good enough. All right. Cody, jump in here. What are your thoughts?
Thank you, Chair. I think this is, yeah, it's very important to make sure we have a very good dialogue and everybody can share, their opinions and make sure everybody has, and oftentimes great ideas come out of that. But we want to make sure that we're being respectful of everybody's time. Many of us are driving from 2, 3, 4 hours away. And so I just wanted to make sure we're being respectful of everybody's time because it's still a drive home for most of us. And, to give everybody true, equity with their time and everything. It's just important, I think, to be cognizant of that. I don't exactly know how, to make sure we're making sure that everybody has an opportunity, and also with the discretion of the chair. But again, I just want to make that kind of point. Many of us are driving significant distances away. And, I just want to make that point.
Okay, point well made. Yes, we need to be respectful of folks' time. I probably will also be one of those driving, but I don't have to drive all the way from Randolph County, so you have a bit further to go. Okay, anybody else? Warren, is your hand still up?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I thought of one other thing to bring up. After reviewing the rules of order a little bit, I realized that it does specify in at least the version of Robert's Rules of Order I'm looking at now that debate is supposed to alternate between those for and against the motion, if there are any. So I might also suggest that we consider either reducing or expanding that initial time period for a subject to a more even number of 2-minute slots. So make it 8 minutes or 12 minutes so that there could be an even number of 2-minute segments for balanced debate.
Well, of course, 10 is divisible by 2. So you're suggesting that the overall
But
time...
that leaves five segments. So if 4 against 4 against 4, those 4 potentially get an extra speaking slot. Now, of course, if people don't use their full 2 minutes, the back and forth could turn out differently. But that was one thing that stuck out to me.
Okay. Well, again, when you put together some thoughts on how you might suggest we word this, take that into consideration, and again, restate that afternoon your justification for trying to divide up the conversation between the pros and the cons.
Absolutely, will do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right. Would Jacob, Amy, Warren, and Jessica, you all are going to give some thought between now and Friday to how you might suggest that we as a committee reword item number 8. So anyway, I look forward to that discussion. It'll give us a lot to consider. So and Amy, if you don't mind taking a few minutes to send your comments in, we can certainly include that as part of the conversation. Okay, well, let's go to item number 9, rule number 9. All discussion shall be directed to the chair, and the discussion between individuals is prohibited. That certainly makes sense. We don't need a lot of folks having sidebar conversations while their chair is trying to conduct the meeting. Any thoughts on that? All discussion shall be limited to the issue before the body. I think same thing. There has to be some point of order to how we undertake these different items that the committee, that the convention must consider. Any thoughts? No individual may speak twice on an issue until every individual wishing to speak on that issue has had an opportunity to speak. I think that's pretty consistent with Robert's rules. We okay there? No secret ballots are permitted. A quorum, we reach a quorum by 40% of the credentialed delegates as opposed to the normal 50% quorum. Are we okay with the number at 40% being considered as a quorum?
Mr. Chair, Amy Lindsay has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm fine with the 40%. I just want to check to make certain that delegates aren't being credentialed until they arrive. Is that correct? So I know we've already had people drop out, and I want to make certain that we're not credentialing people that aren't showing up, and then we're stuck in a position.
Yes, that's correct, Amy. We are credentialing people as they come to the convention and get their credentials in person.
Fantastic, thank you.
Mhm.
And you'll announce that at the beginning of the meeting, Ryan?
We do have a credentials committee who will make that announcement
Okay.
each day, in fact.
Amy, okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, item number 14, request for a roll call vote must be sustained by 40% of those present and voting. Request for a roll call vote. You can imagine at the general meeting how long a roll call vote might take. So I think this is something we have to be very careful about how we, we certainly don't want to find ourselves constantly having to have a roll call on everything that comes up. Thoughts on item number 14? Okay. Item number 15. Proposals that are not recommended by the Standing Committee on Resolutions and Platform may be brought forth from the floor with signatures from 20% of the credentialed delegates representing at least 5 counties and both congressional districts. Here again, I would think that anything that is important enough that we should consider that there will have been some discussion amongst the delegates that will have some idea whether or not they too agree that this is something that come before the convention. So thoughts on item number 15?
So, oops, sorry. Let me raise my hand.
Amy?
Yes, sorry. So I do have some thoughts about this. I don't know that I have a cogent thought on how to do this better, but so I'm from Jefferson County, right? Y'all talking about driving 2 hours? No. So we're the furthest away, and also our issues tend to be different. I agree, there has to be some threshold. Is that the right threshold? 20% of credentialed delegates, that's what, 135 maybe? 140? Is that about right?
At best, I would say it's probably going to be closer to 100 to 125, depending on how many show up.
Right. So the both congressional districts, I think, there are going to be some issue, but maybe that's right. I mean, like I said, I don't have an exact position. That's a pretty high threshold, but maybe that's what's appropriate. I don't really know. I just know that for those of us that live in parts of the state that maybe deal with some different issues in the rest of the state. So for example, here's one issue. Jefferson County actually has a fair number of our Latino population is much higher than it is in the rest of the state. I have been trying to get the Secretary of State's office to print things in Spanish, and they don't have to because the overall population across the state is not high enough. Now, this could be an issue that I would like to have us put things out in Spanish language because we have requests. And my Spanish is not nearly good enough. We've done some phone banking before, but here's an issue that I think speaks to the Democratic Party, but yet could I get both congressional districts to agree to that? I don't know.
Have you submitted your thoughts on this to the platform committee?
I have not. In fact, I hadn't had time since I got home from work to even read over what the platform committee came up with, but I will. And if that isn't addressed, then I will definitely do it now and not from the floor, if it's possible.
Amy, if I may add, that sounds like a wonderful resolution for the state party to support, and I think it's something that you should consider putting in as a resolution to the resolutions committee. And it may be, like an issue like that, maybe something that that does, get put forth to the full body by the committee itself.
All right, great, thank you.
Ryan, is there still time to get this before the resolution committee?
Oh, yes, yes. The resolutions committee is actually meeting at the same time we're meeting right now, and then they will also be meeting at 4 p.m. on Friday. Having had the past actually several weeks, to bring in resolutions, and through Friday, yes. So I would suggest if you can get a resolution drafted up in the next day or so, to send it to resolutions@wvdemocrats.com, and I will put that in the chat as well.
Right, I agree. I think Amy's got an excellent point here, and this certainly would be an issue that down in Fayette County we wouldn't think about, but Jefferson County obviously a different situation. So Amy, glad you brought it up. Okay, back to item number 15. Cody, what are your thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Amy, also, that's why I did mention, I said 2, 3, or 4 hours because, yeah, Jefferson County it's probably definitely the most furthest away, but also the Northern Panhandle. We got folks coming from all over. But that's a very great point that you made, that, talking about the Hispanic population, and the Latinx population, that, that's definitely, you guys probably have a higher percentage population, but that's affecting every county in the state. We're seeing more growth in that. And I think that's something that definitely should be available and an option to be considered. So my question is, hold on, someone is calling me and beeping in. Send a voicemail. My screen went away. So my question was kind of like the logistics of how this would work, like, because it says that with 20% brought to the floor, 20% of credentialed delegates representing at least 5 counties in both congressional districts. Does that mean we could get 20% if this would happen? And if we're not just for that specific, resolution, but in any issue, would that encompass 20% of the total? And then would that be like, say, 4 counties from congressional district 2 and 1 county from congressional district 1, or just 1 person? I'm a little kind of confused on the actual true breakdown of, I see what we're saying, but I don't understand the actual breakdown.
Well, of course, the 20% will be determined at the beginning of the meeting once we know how many credentialed delegates are present in attendance at that meeting. So,
and is that the total from both districts?
Yes.
Okay, so total from both districts. Okay, I was a little confused on that.
All right.
And then 5 counties. Does that have to be 5 counties, like It could be
Well, I
like, say,
think, I think if you just have at least one person from a county, that counts as a county. If you have 5 persons representing 5 different counties, I think you've met the threshold there for the
okay,
number of counties. And again, that at least one of those 5 counties has to be in one of the other congressional district, and up to 4 could be in the other congressional district. So I think the
okay.
5 counties.
I would agree with that. I just would, I mean, maybe if we could make that a little more explicit.
Okay, well, we can certainly try to clean up the language if it's not clear enough. Maybe we can work on some editing here before Friday. But I think the threshold gets to be pretty easy as far as the 5 counties in both congressional districts. The problem is 20%, unless somebody's done some groundwork before they started that meeting. The 20%, I think, is the bigger issue here.
And so that's my other kind of question of the logistics of that. So say somebody, proposes that, that the resolution or proposal was not recommended by the standing committee. They would then, I guess, rise to state that, okay, I'm moving that we reconsider XYZ, whatever. And then is it like, how would that process work out?
Brian, you want to jump in there?
Sure. So again, as these standing, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
As the standing committees have been accepting suggestions and proposed resolutions and proposals to the platform committee through Friday, if the committees don't put forth a particular item that an individual or group of individuals want, this is language we borrowed from previous conventions, and it's a pretty standard thing as well. In fact, there are many other conventions that we're aware of that don't even have an option to bring anything from the floor. This is our attempt to be inclusive and give individuals an opportunity to bring an issue that they feel is important, that the full committee that represents the state through those elected individuals, that they have the opportunity. And I can just speak from personal experience in past conventions where we did have to go around and collect signatures to get things. For example, the Young Democrats many years ago had passed a resolution regarding mountaintop removal, and it was not put on the state convention's resolutions call, and there was quite an effort Friday night into Saturday to get the signatures to get it considered by the state convention, and it was successfully considered. However, the timing of the convention, and it was pushed back intentionally until we weren't able to get it passed because, as we've talked about, many of our delegations from the far off counties had already left to be able to travel home. So it wasn't a full convention that voted on those. And I will say that the 20% of credentialed delegates is reduced from what we've seen from past numbers to try to make it more reasonable.
Okay, so it's a signature process too.
Yeah, it's essentially a petition drive.
Okay, and then when a credential delegate leaves, that doesn't reduce like the total number of like for the 20%.
Correct. Yeah, we won't be tracking attendance that closely. So yeah, no, it's just not possible.
I just don't even track me, but anyway, it's the same facet. Yeah, okay. I just had some questions on kind of the logistics of how that would all, play out. And yeah, I get it now, but I was just a little confused on the verbiage.
Jessica, what's your thoughts?
I have a question as far as, because I know that I personally am still learning the ropes of all of this, and I'm sure that I'm probably not the only person. So would it be possible for proposals that are not recommended by standing committees to be accepted like by a motion that is approved by the majority of those present and in attendance? I mean, would that be anything that is even reasonable? And I mean, Amy, I think that is an amazing suggestion. And as someone from Putnam County, I'm literally working on trying to at least make it there Saturday if I can't make it Friday. But I'm Putnam County and a different congressional district than you, and I know that I would happily sign and jump on board with that. I think that's directly in line with our platform and what the Democratic Party stands for. And I know that the other folks in Putnam County would happily jump on board with that as well. But where, I'm not sure if you'll have the time to get the standing committee to be able to accept it and propose it or whatever. I just didn't know if would it be possible for a proposal to be allowed if the majority of those in attendance vote to approve that, or is that something that's even allowed? Or
Well, I think that if we,
I'm
we-
sorry, Mr. Matt.
I was just going to say, if we follow the rule item number 15, there'll have to be some groundwork done before the start of that meeting. I don't think you can just jump up and say, I have a resolution I want the convention to consider, and yet you've not shared it with enough folks to where you have some signatures of 20% of the people. I don't think we can be that loose with the time of the convention. I think something such as what Amy suggested. Well, first of all, let's hope that the committee will undertake adopting that, and it'll be part of their platform, part of their resolutions. But let's just say they don't. Well, I don't think she's going to have a problem getting 20% of the folks there to sign on to bring that forward to the board, to the floor. So I think that some of these things, are hopefully important enough to where getting the 20% is doable. But again, you can't start 2 minutes before the commencement of the meeting.
yeah, that's definitely understandable. I guess I'm coming from someone that is newly getting involved, and I have not really had the opportunity to get connected with a lot of people in different counties. And in Putnam County, we haven't really had a lot of connection, communication, or involvement, at least in the past year and a half, 2 years that I've really been involved in Putnam County. I just don't, it just seems there's not we don't have a lot of communication with other counties and with other folks and other delegates. I mean, I don't know. I totally get what you're saying. I was just spitballing, kind of brainstorming there.
Well, that's fine. And I don't know how you create that dialogue between counties. That's a challenge. I guess it has to come about by time and familiarity that you might have with other folks who are active in state Democrat politics from other counties. I know I've always, for so many years, been sort of sequestered here in Fayette County. I haven't by any means played any role in statewide politics. Every once in a while on a campaign, perhaps, but I too, like you, as I mentioned earlier, I don't know that many people who are actually on our committee. Some of these names, a lot of these names are familiar, but how I would go about raising 20% of the people that are going to be at this convention to join on to a platform item, for me too, that would be a challenge.
Mr. Chair, if I can just add, we, as a party, we will provide the petition materials so that it's not something that somebody, if a person comes and a resolution is not being presented and they want to work to get these signatures, we'll provide the materials so that they can go about getting those without having to do extra things.
Well, that's part of the challenge for sure. So yeah, I think that's certainly a hand up on the process. Warren, what would you add here?
Yeah, Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have some questions about the actual conceived, like what's basically the language of the math of 20% of what is that, 20% of the total potential delegates, with at least one delegate representing 5 counties and both congressional districts, or does it need to be 20% of each of those? Like, are there separate categories that all need to hit a 20% threshold, and you have to meet all of those
Warren,
thresholds?
no, I hear what you're saying. I think it's a similar question that that Cody had. No, the
Oh,
the
okay.
intention of this rule is simply 20% of credentialed delegates from all. However, there must be 5 counties represented, meaning one person from 5 different counties, and there has to be at least one of those counties from a different congressional district. So not the full county, but just
Yeah.
if you had, if you were able to get 2 counties together, let's just say hypothetically, Kanawha and Monongalia, and they all signed on, and you had 100 people, then you would need to get 3 more counties to finish, and that could be 3 people. But because you had 2 different congressional districts already represented, you could go and get all of Berkeley and Jefferson and Marion County or something like that. So it's intended to be 20% of the credentialed delegates at convention. Perhaps we could say, we could change representing to uh, maybe we could clean that language up to be more specific, that what the point is that that the individuals of that 20% have to represent, at least, they have to come from 5 different counties and both congressional districts.
I think if you just change it to representing, including a delegate from at least 5 counties and both congressional districts. I think
I like that. Yeah, we could just change
relatively simple
representing
change.
to right.
And
Would
that's
you
what
need
I
me?
was
Would you
kind of
need
trying to go
anyone to
with.
draft that, or
Yeah, be
I'd be
more
happy to
explicit.
draft that. Okay, we're just getting it down now. That's cool.
What was that wording again, Warren?
Including a delegate from.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think in this case, representing has too many possible meanings, with whether it's mathematical or like political representing. So yeah, I think that alternate language makes it a little clearer where the 20% is required and where it's not.
But go ahead, including a delegate from, or a delegate from, one delegate, no less than one delegate from. What was your?
All right. I mean, obviously, yeah, including one delegate from at least 5 counties in both congressional districts. Yeah, I think that works. And maybe a comma after delegates, but that's probably a minor point.
Okay, well, bring it up Friday, and let's maybe we can clean this up a little bit so it's a little more understandable by folks that read it.
Isn't the word we're looking for comprised of? So
that's a good inclusive term.
It might overly imply reference back to the total, like that. I don't know. And also that's one of those words that might throw people more than clarify. But
well, we'll wrestle around with this on Friday, and between now and then, we'll come up with some wording that's that clarifies it. Okay, well, we're at the end of the list of rules, and I just want to say thanks to you folks who have hung in with us for the past hour. I certainly appreciate your time, and I look forward to meeting you folks that I haven't had the privilege of meeting before this weekend. So it should be an interesting, enjoyable weekend, and it's an awful lot of people. So I guess we should feel good about having that number of folks in our Democrat Party who are willing to take time to be a part of the state convention. So look forward to it. Does anybody else have any closing thoughts they'd like to express?
Just real quick, we start our meeting at 4 o'clock on Friday. Is that correct?
I believe so. Right, Ryan?
Yes, that is correct.
Any idea about kind of where that is, or just
Yes.
the
It will be at the Charleston Convention Center, and it will be in one of the conference rooms directly above. There will be signage, but it will be in either 202, 203, or 204.
Great.
And you will enter the convention center. There will be signage directing you to the South Hall. There is essentially an inner lobby at the South Hall where we will have a registration set up. And from that specific location, you can either take an elevator or the stairs to the second level, and all committees will be meeting on that second level directly above us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And we'll be sharing this, of course.
Okay, anything else? All right, well, Ryan, I think we're at the end of the meeting. I appreciate you taking your time this evening to host set the conference call up, and look forward to seeing everybody this weekend. And I sure do appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your time and for running this meeting.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone else, too. Bye.